Hi, today is the 30th of January 2018 in New Zealand, and I want to talk to you about debunking the myth that women have lost the ability to give birth. I mean, this is something that we actually need to seriously consider because in my lifetime, the cesarean rate has gone from 4.5% to over 30% in developed countries, even in New Zealand, where there's a midwifery-led continuity of care, direct entry midwives, that 90% of all women have their own midwife, and if they have an obstetrician, they still have their own midwife. So in New Zealand, the cesarean rate's now 30%, up from 12.9% when midwives became the lead maternity carers. So this is a real question. Have women lost the ability to give birth? And that's complicated because after I finish this Debunking the Myth series, I'm going to talk about the truth series about childbirth. And the truth is that women have not lost the ability to give birth. The truth is, so that's a myth, women have not lost the ability to give birth. The truth is that we don't have skills. So, and that is coupled with a medical profession that has matured in my lifetime to make cesareans safer and easier and more involved with the family. So it's easier to have a cesarean. We have become a risk-averse population. It's as simple as that. We used to think that kids could go out and play and climb trees and ride bikes on the streets. And now we want them to ride on the sidewalks, and we get nervous if they climb a tree. You have what are called helicopter parents hovering around their children. We have people having fewer children. When I was born in 1944, penicillin was just being invented. My grandmother died of pneumonia at 39 before penicillin was invented. All cultures around the world lost 25 to 30% of their children before the ages of 5. So we had more children. Now that our children are surviving because of antibiotics and immunizations, regardless of your political feelings about it, that's a reality. We're having look at China, OneChild Policy for a long time. 50% cesarean rate. Have women lost the ability to give birth? No, society has changed. And with that, birth has become more precious. So it becomes very much more important that that baby is safe, and we safeguard the baby. And therefore, we believe that having a cesarean is safeguarding the baby. It may cause us problems because it does have a higher risk to us, but like all parents, we'll just lay down our lives for children. It's just, that's what we do. So have women lost the ability? No. But what is driving the cesarean rate? What are the causes of the increase in cesarean? When you really look at it, are 30% of all mothers and babies at risk of dying or being seriously injured without a cesarean? Well, no, we know that's not accurate. So what is accurate? We know that most cesareans, almost 99.9% of them, are performed during the labor. And we know that if a woman labors over a reasonable period of time, and what's reasonable? 6 hours? Well, that would be a short labor. 12 hours? That would be a normal labor for a woman who's previously had a birth. 24 hours would be a normal labor for a woman having her first birth. 24 hours is quite a long time, and women who are skilled tend not to labor that long. Because when we have longer labors, our babies get more tired, we get more tired, in fact we get exhausted, which puts us and the baby more at risk of having a postpartum hemorrhage, or the baby just having placental insufficiency and becoming tired, and therefore perhaps being more stressed at birth or being actually stressed at birth. So if we can cut down the number of long labors, then we would have less cesareans for long first stage dilations. And that's simple to do by learning to prepare your body for birth. That's why Birthing Better skills developed by families, because we wanted to cut down long labors. Families wanted to know, well, why did that happen? What was that all about? Or how can I prevent that? So we figured it out. And guys got it. It's an exercise in plumbing. Big object has to come out of a container. They get it. So what do they have to do? They have to open up the container. They get it. And what are women being told to do? Do Kegel exercises, pelvic floor. Tighten up down there now. Are you opening your container or tightening it up? So women have given women wrong messages. You should do Kegels, just not from 6 months of pregnancy onward. You should learn to open up. You have a big container. Learn to open up. And that's what we teach you. We teach you the hip lift, how to create space side to side, the sacral maneuver, how to create mobility in your sacrum, that bone at the end of your spine, how to choose positions that keep you open, how to align the top part and the bottom part of your pelvis to keep your baby aligned into your pelvis, how not to apply pressure to your sacrum if you have back labor, which closes off the space for the baby, but instead be able to move the sacrum to open up the space for the baby. That was simple. People just have to do it. So we want people to learn these skills. They have to learn it through getting our resource because we're the only resource that has that. So we know that by creating space in our pelvis, that it's easier for our baby to open up our cervix and come down through and out our vagina, if we've prepared the inside of our vagina, not with perineal massage, but working the deep inside tissue on each side of the tailbone, between the sit bones, or back of the rectum, on each side of the rectum. And we do it because we move from being a sexual object as a woman to becoming a mother, and because we decide that our body should not be traumatized by getting a big object out of it, and we don't want to traumatize our baby by making it hard for that object, that baby, to come out of us because of our tension. And by doing the internal work, our body is, instead of being damaged, tearing or stretched or hurt or bruised, it opens up and it recovers quickly as the birth hormones go away. So we know from our 45 years of experience and now 17 years of statistics that we reduce the cesarean rate and women birth better because they've prepared their pregnant body to give birth. Simple as that. That's an easy fix. From 24 weeks onward, you learn these skills, and you learn them easily over a small amount of time, and you practice the ones that you think you need to practice, and you do it with your partner or the other person who's going to help you, and you have much less of a chance of having a cesarean. Simple as that. Makes sense. Open up your body, let this big object out, makes sense. Second reason, though, that cesareans are performed during the dilation or the labor part. Women don't cope with the natural occurring pains of contraction. A lot of women are having epidurals. There are problems with epidurals, beside the fact that you feel really disconnected from the experience of your baby's birth. But it's more important that epidurals can stop your baby from coming out easily. That's why they try to do the epidural at 5 centimeters, but really cut it down by the time you get fully dilated, because they know that it stops the expulsion phase. But if women can't cope with the natural occurring pain of labor, this isn't because women lack the ability to give birth, it's because they lack the skills. Simple. You have to have good coping and managing skills. And you've been given a message by my natural birth advocates and midwives that you should trust birth, shouldn't be afraid of it. Birthing Better families didn't take that approach. Trust birth. A lot of Birthing Better families had medical high risks and had problems at birth, so trusting birth was complicated. But knowing what to do on the day, a lot of women said, I didn't know what to do on the day. I felt totally overwhelmed. I didn't cope once the contractions got painful. And I was terrified the whole time. So we just went, okay, you can be scared, you can hate it. I don't like labor, but I manage it well because I had the skills to manage it well. So when I'd have a labor contraction, when my son was born in 1982, every time a contraction would come on, I'd go, oh, why did I soften inside my pelvic clock? Why did I get in the best position? Why did I stay open? Because this contraction is so intense. That's what went through my mind, F. But I stayed open. I stayed softening on the inside. I kept my breathing patterns. Every time I inhaled, I opened up my pelvis. Every time I exhaled, I softened inside the pelvic clock so that I could help my baby be born. And so I managed the intensity of contractions. I never have delayed births. My births are always over within 6 hours. Oh, yippee for people who have 6-hour births, except they're so intense. So we'd rather them spread out a little bit. So people who have 12-hour labors, they actually feel better than some of us who have really quick, intense labors that just contractions are 10 seconds apart. You have barely time to recover from them. So we developed skills, and we developed skills for ourselves as birthing women, and those skills were shared with our partner because we all share the same body. We blink, we cough, we can tighten up our rectum. Everyone who breathes in can open their pelvis. Everyone who breathes out can soften in the pelvic clock. Men have pelvic clocks, women have pelvic clocks. So we learned a series of skills. They're called breathing now, communication skills. So if a woman's breathing well, a man can hear it. He can see what's on her face. If she changes her breathing and her face changes, he knows how to help her right away. If he tries to touch her and she flicks her hand off, he used to think, I'm never going to touch her again. Now with the communication skills, she can now put his hand back there after she's gone through that moment. Or she can say, do that, it's a nonverbal. Or she can nod or nod. So we developed communication skills, touch skills. A lot of people were told, women don't like to be touched in labor. We'd love to be touched. We just want to be touched in the right place, right time, right way. So we developed a touch that a man or a partner can use that cues us to soften inside so they don't get exhausted. We learned all these skills, myriads of skills to cope. So birthing better families who use the skills have between a 3 and 6% cesarean rate, which tells us the causes of cesareans are often due to a delay in first stage and women not coping. And in New Zealand, because birth advocates and midwives rightly said that forceps were damaging babies. They were. If women had tight vaginas and had to be cut, and they put a forcep in, and that baby was tight inside that woman's vagina, that baby could be damaged, particularly if the doctor was frightened or didn't have a lot of skills. So the decision was to stop using forceps much, go to the vacuum. So that's trying to suck a baby out. You're still trying to suck it out of a tight vagina. That's soft tissue that could have been prepared and could be soft instead. So in New Zealand now, if a woman pushes for over 2 hours, and if they can't do forceps easily, can't do vacuum, they push the baby back in and do a cesarean. So there are more cesareans now being done at second stage. Can that be prevented? Simply 8 weeks of doing the internal work, 5 minutes a day. Is that worth it to you? For goodness sakes, it's got to be. What's your baby's birth worth it to you? So we are either heading down a societal direction in which we are telling women, you don't have the ability to birth. Your babies are too big. You're obese. You don't exercise. You're not coping well. And the cesarean rate is going to continue to rise. We as Birthing Better families don't have a judgment about cesareans because a lot of the families had cesareans. Some had them by choice, that's fine. They still loved preparing their body for birth, loved learning the skills and used the skills on the way to the hospital while being prepped and in surgery because it was their baby's birth. So they were skillfully birthing their baby, even though they may have chosen a cesarean or felt it was needed or were pressured to have one. Women still have unplanned cesareans during labor. Do you know what the one reason women have given me over the years, 45 years, of why they ended up with a cesarean that they thought was unnecessary 6 months later, was they couldn't be bothered. They got 10, 12, 15 hours into the labor, couldn't be bothered. That was it. And they're in the hospital. And somebody's willing to do a cesarean because they can always find a reason. And they don't find a reason out of meanness. They find a reason because they're trying to help you not suffer. So we need to understand that we have this myth that women don't have the ability to birth anymore, and we've coupled with the medical profession to make that myth come true. We lack skills. Childbirth preparation, education courses are not about skills. What are families saying nowadays? I don't have time to go to a class. I just want it quick. What do you want quick? Just let me ask you, what do you want quick? Once your baby's born, how quick is it going to be to take care of that child? Just let me ask you that. How quick is it to parent? For most of us, it's a full-time job with the full-time job we have. And we're taking care of our home. So when I hear a pregnant person over the past 15 years, not all the 45 years, but certainly over the past 15 years, I don't have time to learn anything for the birth. I just follow what my midwife says, what my doctor says. What are you saying? And that's what we want to change. We want to change that societal message. And you're the people who are going to change it. We have to value our baby's birth. We have to value our birth experience of our baby's birth. We have to realize, yeah, it's an event. Try to plan it. Most plans don't go to plan. It's something that happens. You never know what it's going to be like. That's true. It's going to unfold in ways that you didn't probably expect. But it's an activity. That's all it is. It's an activity. When you got in a car to drive from A to B, you didn't say, I don't have time to learn the skills. You had to learn the skills, and it took you an hour in a car every day for 16 weeks, that's what most people tell me, to feel good enough to sit with somebody else in the car and have you go through a driving test. But more importantly, every time you get in the car, you have to adjust, adapt, and use those skills well, or else we're going to have carnage on the roads. So how worth it is the activity of birthing your baby? If we, as a society, don't place value on our baby's birth, no matter where we birth, no matter who's present or what happens at the birth, then we are buying into this myth that women can't birth because we've placed no value on learning the skills to do this activity. And that's shame on us as a society. Shame on us. And if we think that the men in our lives or the other person in our lives doesn't have the capacity to learn skills to help us prepare our body and cope as our birth unfolds, if we believe they do not have the capacity, shame on us. Okay, shame on us. And so now that I get on Facebook, I'm talking, right now 2 people are watching this. So hi, how are you? But you have to spread the word. You have to engage. You have to get people to these videos. You have to get people to the resource. You have to get people to share this out there. We have a societal problem, not a medical problem. The societal problem isn't that women can't birth. The societal problem is that there's no message out there that women and men need the skills to know how to birth their baby, no matter how they birth their baby. And that's what's important. So I've debunked this myth. We know how to birth, but we need to know how to birth. And we have the skills because mothers and fathers in the early 70s took the time with me over a 15-year period. Me, who is not a midwife, I'm not a childbirth educator, I'm not a doula, I was a body worker. But what was important was we shared the same human body. I worked with Orthodox Jewish women, evangelicals, Mormons, Seventh-day Adventists, Christian Scientists, Muslims, women who had white skin, who had black skin, who had brown skin, people from all over the world. We share our human body. That's it. We all blink, we all cough, and we can all tighten up our rectum, and our baby has to come out of it. So we need to grow a new message, and this is what we're advocating. We need everybody to become skilled. There are other skills-based resources. Compare theirs to ours and use them all together. That's great. But use skills and create a skills-based birth plan that tells your midwife or your obstetrician or the staff what skills you've learned. And then ask them. Encourage us to use them if you don't think we're using them. And if you haven't learned them, don't write them down. Don't be dishonest about it. Because we've had a lot of people say, yeah, I learned breathing, I learned relaxation. They don't behave that way. And you say, well, you've learned these skills. Nah, I didn't really learn them. Takes this amount of time. Well worth it. Okay, see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Lots of love.